Welcome. We're glad you're joining us for this second episode of Faith, Life, and the Future of All Saints. We're pleased tonight to have our council members, Jennifer Mullaney. Jennifer, you just want to wave so people know who you are. Melissa Wheeler and Aaron Shank. And tonight I'm Pastor Scott and myself. Tonight we're going to talk about authentic diversity, and it's really an emphasis that we've had throughout this year, and Pastor Scott's going to introduce that for us.
Yeah, so we definitely, as Bonnie said, been putting intentional emphasis on authentic diversity in 2021. And so we've done a 21-day challenge about racism. We've had a study on ageism, and we have an upcoming study on ableism. And then more to come in the summer and fall, dealing with all the kind of isms that permeate society. And so that's what we want to kind of talk about. Whether you've participated or not, I think what would help us to begin with is to talk about what we think All Saints' role ought to be in kind of dialoguing and standing up for and against a lot of these societal isms like racism, ableism, ageism, sexism, and the like. What role do you think All Saints ought to play in all of that?
I think it's the million-dollar question. And I don't know that I have all the answers, but in giving this a lot of thought, I think first step is to look within ourselves and have the hard internal dialogue, and then I think we have to have the dialogue amongst us as a congregation about where we've fallen short, and talk about the sin of racism, and that none of us are without sin. So, I think we need to acknowledge that, and then continue to have a dialogue about where we go from here.
Sure.
They say the first thing in any of the isms, the first thing is awareness. So that's been striking for me as we've done some of these isms, is how aware I've become of things I say or do, unintentionally, but still say or do, and how we can change from that. So, but to your point, it is a wider audience and making sure that they are aware of it as well. Yes.
We have a diverse family, and we've been here for many years. We've seen the struggles that All Saints has had, and we're really looking forward to the conversations and to build that awareness. But I think more than that, we're excited that All Saints is such a big spiritual body that is trying its hardest to emulate the community, the broader community, and we're excited to see where that goes. And I think that all that we've seen in society in the last couple of years with racism boiling to the surface, we're not immune to it here, and we need to be able to recognize, be aware, and but we've got the resources, not just the money, but the people who are interested in being part of the solution, matching our more diverse community.
I think it's a hard next step for the church as a whole and for All Saints individually, and then the people within it, because all of that conversation takes a long, hard draw on your faith, because not only is it dealing within yourself, but it is also dealing with the conversations of those around you. And how do you have that conversation when you still want to love and hold on to the other person, but you realize at what point how do you have those conversations where this isn't right, and I'm not going to accept that conversation in my space anymore, or that attitude or that behavior. You can draw your faith both ways. If you're supposed to love all and treat everyone equally, then you also have to figure out how do you work in loving and treating equally those who you now know and recognize also need to move forward and change. And so it's a drain in both sides of it, and we now know we can no longer just stay in and say, well, I'm just going to be quiet. And that's a huge challenge.
Nice. Very good.
I think, Jennifer, you kind of allude to a good point about we are called both to love, but we're also called to a level of accountability. I think a lot of times we miss the heart of the Bible, the heart of the justice component of the Bible. God's call to inclusivity and equality and to justice for all people. And I think as an organization, as a church, it is easy to focus only on hymns and sacraments and worship stuff and then gloss over the justice dialogues and components that we need to be having. So maybe we could talk about that a moment. Not only how important are these dialogues, but how do you think All Saints has been doing up to this point with engaging these difficult tasks of talking about social injustice?
I mean, I think the church, All Saints, has done a good job, especially focusing on what do we need to do and the problem identification phase.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that I think we need to work on how to project that to the full congregation and then beyond into the community.
Mm-hmm.
That's been obviously a huge challenge this past year.
Yeah.
But as we move forward and get out, I think that's part of what we need to do when we get out, is to show God's love, love our neighbors, and all the isms have to be out there and explained and talked about and not hidden. We can't hide from it anymore. But I do think we need to make that next step, take that next step from kind of the soup of figuring out what are the issues that we need to tackle, and now we need to go tackle those issues.
Moving from the discussion phase to the action, concrete actions. I would agree that we've done a really good job facilitating discussion, but we probably do need to move to some concrete action items.
Our goal throughout this year is to end up with a diversity statement. And that means it has to be ownership from the congregation as well. And that diversity statement will include who are we welcoming here at All Saints. And I do know that we have a tendency to say, well, we welcome everyone at All Saints. Well, and the reality is, not everyone welcomes everyone at All Saints. I mean, we have to own that reality, and then we have to put it in such a way, we want to state it in such a way that people know when they come here, just by seeing the diversity statement, that it is not that the diversity statement we're going to have it hanging somewhere that they read it when they come in, that we become the diversity statement, and that we welcome people who look different than we are. My sermon a couple weeks ago talked about ableism and the fact that if you are differently able than we are, and if you're in a wheelchair, you have to sit up front. That's not welcoming. So I think we need to take a long, hard look at ourselves and say, how is it then that we become a welcoming community? So my thought for you is, what are the things that you think would be a part of a diversity statement, or what are the things you think that, again, I'm going to just say that will challenge us as a congregation? To put it another way, where are the isms that we might fall down on?
Well, I think we'll fall down on all of them. We're not gonna get it all right all the time. I think we all know that and accept that. But I'm excited to hear about this process. It will probably be painful, but it's important. But I think then I'm already ready for the next step, which is making sure that we fulfill that diversity statement, so that when someone walks in, they don't need to look for a statement. They automatically can see someone that looks like them, so that they'll feel more comfortable.
I think an important step in that is that to make sure that the diversity statement is written well, it needs the assistance of the people who are diverse. We cannot sit here and make those assumptions and what that is, and there are, a lot of people who are trained and specialized in this, and I've had the chance of working with one through my company, and it is eye-opening because we make all of these assumptions, we being the group at that wherever you are that holds the most power and space. And so how do you make that space? Because it's not just going to fill instantly. You're not going to go out, bring in 20 or 40 or whatever ism you're trying to show, so that when people walk in, they're like, oh, you have to work within yourself and really push out and say, how can we do this, and ask for the help that you need.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, I don't think it feels authentic enough.
Yes, yes. Just because we write a diversity statement, it will only mean something if we change. Otherwise, it's an empty statement.
I think for authentic diversity, it has to be more than just what you've chosen to do at the moment. It's what you grow into, and so that it isn't really even a diversity per se anymore. It is that there's just a blend of all. That then becomes authentic. At any other point in time, it's what you're actively doing to make something change versus it just being how life is. And that's where I look forward to getting to.
I like what you said, actively, what we can actively do to make things change. So what can we actively do to make things change here at All Saints?
I'm not full of ideas for concrete actions yet, but one action we've already taken that I wanted to highlight, because we're talking about ableism this week, is that we were so successful in our appeal to our congregation with Ignite Faith Together that we had the ability to construct the family bathroom, which is now complete, so everyone should definitely come see it. And we're hoping that that is one step and one action in many that will make this space more welcoming.
I want to go back to something you said, Jennifer, and it is that I think when you talk about authentic, the goal is to have it become who you are. Now, so we can say we've got a year goal here for authentic diversity. Well, it's not going to end in a year. I mean, there's a lot of hard work that has to be done, but our hope is that in the years to come, it is who we become. We become authentic in truly welcoming all people here at All Saints, and opening our door, and not just that they come in the building, but that we truly look at who is missing from this place. I mean, that's a big piece of authentic diversity, is who's missing, and who are we not benefiting from, getting to know Jesus through their eyes. And so it will be hard work, but I think it will be work that is good and challenging, and will move us, hopefully. If we see Jesus in them, we certainly hope they see more of Jesus in us.
So, how about any final thoughts on the Authentic Diversity campaign, or what you're excited about as we continue down this path?
I think one of the things that I've heard discussed a lot in this space is the need that nothing will move forward without grace, because we will struggle, and then it won't be gotten right, and it will take time and work. And so what better place to show that than within your faith and within your church, that we can bring grace to the table with this, and we can be forgiving about where we do fall down, as long as we're still getting up and moving forward and trying again.
I think that's such an important point, because when we contrast how we're going to approach this versus the culture at large and the secular culture and even our corporate cultures, is there's a lot of discussion about cancel culture and how people do make mistakes, and then there's kind of that dialogue, but we don't have to conduct ourselves that way. We will grant each other grace and support each other when we mess up. So I think that's how we'll differentiate our process from the larger cultural discussion.
And to that point, I'm a part of a group called Be the Bridge, and what they really try to do is make sure that you're getting groups that are diverse. So, you know, we do want people to come here and see, and I think, Melissa, you said too, we want them to see their community here as well. But we also want all of us to feel like my community is not white female 60-somethings, right? That my community is everybody that worships here. And it may be that my community turns into be whatever, with young adults or with, you know, diverse ages. I mean, we even have that, it's diverse ages as well. And so it moves beyond my finding my own community as a, you know, set white female, but finding that diverse community that you're able to be with and have conversation with and feel each other's pain and feel each other's joy as well.
Well, I think we'll conclude with that. I want to thank each of you, Jennifer, Melissa, and Aaron, and Bonnie, for being a part of this good, healthy dialogue. And as we noted, this is how we begin. We fall down, but we get back up, and we keep on the path to finding a way to reflect that beautiful diversity of the community that we're in and the beauty of the world that God made. So thank you all.